Hello everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the event Embracing Work Life Across Professions. So today, this panel discussions would be the purpose of this panel discussion is to unravel some of the following information, such as the impacts of COVID-19 on work processes, challenges faced during these times across different professions, perceptions of work-life balance and its attainability during this pandemic, pros and cons of working from home, and many more. So, without further ado, let us start with the introduction of our panelists and the discussion. So, our first panelist is Miss Anusha, who's a KC parent. So, Miss Anusha's training and education was in computer science. She has an MCA from Pune University. She worked for a couple of IT product companies for 8 years, after which she quit to focus on raising her children. Now that her kids are older, Daksh is going to LL and Vedant is going to FF next year. So she has been volunteering with a non-profit organization in the field of in education. In her leisure time, she likes to read and crochet. So Sunisha will introduce the next panelist.
So our next panelist is Aarti D. Aarti D has been a KC parent for the past 13 years and is a KT teacher for about 11 years. She has taught preschoolers and teenagers. She's currently teaching business studies for high school students and is the IGCSE coordinator. She is a cheerful and bubbly person, constantly involved with every learner, enjoying her journey as a teacher. Outside school, she lives with her advocate husband and a teenage son. She loves traveling, playing board games, working out, bringing on Netflix, and absolutely detests cooking.
Thank you, Sunisha.
So I'll be introducing our next panelist, Mr. Michael Purcell, also Mixer. So Mixer is the head of the school at KC High. Mr. Mick comes from the United States, where he received his degrees in engineering and physics. He has been a mathematics teacher for 30 plus years and has also taught many other subjects, such as theory of knowledge and theory of knowledge. Mr. Mix serves many roles for the IBO as a workshop leader, consultant, site visitor, etc. He's widely recognized as an innovator in international education, developing programs in web literacy, open source technologies, digital citizenship, academic honesty, and many more. Um, Prior to working at KCI, he was at the Mahindra United World College in Pune, Nissan, Thailand, and at Edubridge in Mumbai. He loves to hike and climb mountains, read books, and spend time with his wife and 3 children.
Thank you,
Moving
Dana.
on, sorry. Moving on to our next panelist, Rati. Rati is 11th grade student who is moving to 12th grade. She is 16 years old and has a strong passion for business and economics. She loves to dance and she has been learning ballet for the past 6 years. She is also very interested in art and enjoys reading books and poetry. She is an environmentalist and loves nature. Our next panelist is Sunny Sir. Sunny Sir is the facility manager. His role is to manage the school's infrastructure at both the Navalur and the Kotturakopuram campus. This includes safety, security, transportation, F&B, government relations, and so on. The facilities department's main task is to keep the KC community safe and secure during the time they are on and off campus.
Thank you, Sunisha.
So, moving on to our next and final panelist for today's discussion, Dr. Mitali Pratap. Dr. Mitali Pratap is a consultant psychiatrist with 18 years of clinical work experience in psychiatry. In 2015, she moved back to her hometown, Chennai, and started a specialist hospital for mental health named Shaditya Hospital in Pallavaram, along with her husband, who's also a psychiatrist. She's a mother of two children who attend KCI. She greatly enjoys working with children and families on a one-to-one level and bringing a change in their lives through advice, supportive counseling, and education on mental health. She has set up a team named Saditya Child Therapy Center in Pummel and gives diagnostic and therapeutic services for children with special needs. Currently, she's actively involved organizing COVID treatment for patients at a hospital.
So we really thank all the panelists to be a part of this event. And without further ado, let's dive right in. We'd appreciate all the panelists to keep their videos on and have the audiences keep their microphones off throughout the event and discussion. If you have any questions, you may put them into the chat box and we shall take them as the discussion moves forward. So without further ado, let's get started. Our first question to you is, what is the impact of COVID on your work process and ethics? Um, who would like to take the question first? Or do we pick someone?
I nominate Sunny. Thank you, Mick. All right. Sorry, could you repeat the question again, please, Sunisha?
Sure. What is the impact of COVID on your work process and ethics?
Okay, I'll answer that question a little roundabout way. It starts with last March when the pandemic was announced, and I remember I think it was 16th March when we closed the school, and we moved the entire in-person school to an online mode. So we went straight to the internet, which wasn't a very easy thing to do, but fortunately for us, our teachers and staff adapted very well. And I think that's also been through the guidance and the systems that were put in place by the head of the school, the coordinators. So, and in fact, we were probably the first school, or maybe the only school, to go online very early last year. So, there were a few challenges that we were faced with. And it's not just we as an admin, but we as in the entire school. Teachers suddenly found themselves teaching using a very different channel, and they had to very quickly adapt because there was no honeymoon period. The way I remember it, Mick announced that from tomorrow we are going online, classes will be run online. So teachers also had to adapt very quickly. And the impact that it gave us as in facilities was we had to make sure that the teachers got the kind of support they really required. While there was a pandemic, while there was a lockdown, they lifted the lockdown for a bit. So our job was to ensure that the teachers had all the support they needed to be able to continue to teach seamlessly from their homes. Now, that would include, say, their teaching material. It included their computers. It included internet connectivity, and we had to be very compassionate, which is something that the team was briefed to practice because if it was very important to be compassionate at that time because we also understood what the teachers were going through. It's not easy to work and to run a life from home because you're suddenly in a very different environment. And just to adapt to that would have taken them quite a bit of time. So I just like to congratulate the teachers for a job well done. Yeah. And if I keep talking, the cows will come home. So I'll let someone else take the next question. Yeah.
I have a follow-up for you on that. How do you feel about managing various stakeholders in school as a whole, being a part of the facility department?
There are various needs for the various persons within that make up our community. The teachers have very different needs, and within the teachers' community, there are again very different needs within themselves. The administrative need is another kettle of fish because you have finances that you need to take care of. So the finance team needed to have their equipment and their information on hand. So suddenly we just found that everyone was working from home, and I wouldn't say it was difficult, but all I'd say it was very different and it was very new for everyone. And what I can recall is everyone adapted very quickly and adopted very quickly to it. And what the facilities did was, like I said earlier, we supported the entire school as much as we could in our own little way. Yeah. So we were running around town, dropping off computers, getting internet connectivity, making sure their books were there when they needed reference material. So basic idea is let them do their job and we help them do the job well.
Thank you. Let's move on to Rati. What do you think as a student? What has the impact of COVID been in your work process and ethics? I mean, you are new to KC, so how did that go about for you?
I mean, I think majorly the fact that I couldn't visit school and I couldn't be in school for in the very beginning was something that I was really sad about. And after we had those few days of school, I kind of knew like what I had missed because I felt like personally when you're in a class, you have better concentration as a student, and the fact that that wasn't there for the past few months was hard, but then I guess me as a student and all our classmates were able to adapt to that. And apart from that, I think there was also like a lot of emotional impact because the fact that what COVID happens around you, the fact that people were dying and all those things, and the risk that you might get it or your family might get it was probably a major impact, not only for me as a student, but to everyone who's present here. And getting over all that and feeling still confident and just trying to follow the rules, I guess that's one way we were able to come over all these things. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, Mixer, would you like to take that now? Would you like to take the same question? You're on mute.
Sure, Sanisha, although I think both Rati and Sunny answered it very well. Let me just ask you, what precisely do you mean when you say the impact of COVID on your work process and ethics? Are you talking about ethics in general or your work ethic?
Ideally, your work ethics.
Okay.
So, because of the change, what was the impact for you personally in your work process?
Right. So, in some sense, it was a major impact because we went from in-person classes to organizing everything online and to doing a lot of classes online. But in some ways, it was just an acceleration of everything we have been doing for the past 10 or 15 years in schools. So if you think about what schools have been talking about, what educators have been talking about for the past 10 or 15 years, it's been things like differentiation. In other words, every child is different and you need to tailor the educational program to meet the needs of each learner. It's also been about educational technology and the importance of learning research skills and helping children to develop literacy and numeracy in a data-rich environment with the internet there and so many resources available. It's also been very much about the social and emotional wellness of every child and collaboration, making sure that we're all working together. So all of those things accelerated really quickly because of the pandemic and because we were all at home on our devices. So suddenly we had new opportunities as well as new challenges. And we saw that the teachers and the learners who were very good with technology, who were very self-motivated, who were very independent, they sort of soared ahead. But there were some who needed extra help and extra guidance, as Sunny already talked about. We have to look at each student individually now and try to figure out exactly what that learner needs and try to tailor the program for the individuals. In terms of my work ethics, well, honestly, I feel like we've been working even harder than we were before, just because the challenges are so extreme. And I feel like I've been working for 400 days in a row. So I've kind of lost a distinction between family time, work time, downtime, vacation time, holiday. It's all just one big internet blob now. And, so I've had to try to make time for myself. And I've had to try to tell myself, okay, it's okay if you don't check your messages or you don't check your email for 8 hours because you want to read a book or binge out on Netflix or just just get away from it all. That's okay too. So I've had to block off times for myself just to keep my sanity and my mental health.
Thank you. Let's get the parents' perspective on the table now. Ms. Anusha, would you have anything to add? How has it been? How has it impacted your children, as well as how has it been for you as a whole?
So for me, as a parent and homemaker, I think what changed a lot was planning, because the whole situation at home changed. I had two kids who were, attending classes. So and to be sure that they had everything they needed, and the rest of my work happened without the extended support system that we are so used to. It requires a certain amount of planning. It's and to be there for the kids, to give them things to do and to involve them and to make sure they are learning, they're continuing to learn, give them the support that they need, which of course gives us a renewed appreciation for what the teachers go through. Was the change. Like, there was more planning, there was more organizing, so that we didn't feel like we were just running around all day trying to do something without achieving very much. As a parent and a homemaker, yes, that was the challenge. On the other hand, I was someone who was trying to reskill and trying to get back to work. And luckily for me, I was already exploring online courses. And this period, it really helped in making such valuable content available online to people like me who want to learn and reskill ourselves to contribute in whatever way. So that was good. But on the flip side, it is that having the children at home, it was important for me when it comes to the work ethic part. Like, if I am studying, I needed to draw boundaries and tell them that, you are not supposed to, this is my time, like Nick said, saying that this is my time, you cannot come and disturb me at this point of time. I'm studying and I need this time to focus on what I'm doing. So that required me to train the children, explain to them, talk to them about why I was doing what I was doing, so that they appreciate what I'm doing and give me that time off from being there for them, day in and day out, because they were at home. Because as a parent, normally we tend to plan a lot of things when kids are in school. But now that they were at home, I had to draw boundaries, explain, plan my time so that I was working towards what I wanted to do as well. So that's how it changed for me as a parent and someone who was trying to, reskill, upskill myself.
Thank you. Let's move on to Dr. Bitley. What has it been for you? I'm sure it must have been a roller coaster, but let's hear your views. You're on mute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me over today. And thank you, Sunisha and Nauman, for inviting me to the Lockdown Diaries. As a full-time psychiatrist and full-time mother, or a part-time mother pre-COVID, I moved on to being a full-time homemaker and quarter-time psychiatrist, I should say. So it's been a roller coaster, if not less. Pre-COVID work ethics, we were talking about the impact of COVID on my work process. So on a work level, it definitely it had huge impact, because as a doctor, mostly, doctors are not used to working from home. That's something which was not an idea ever which came into our heads. So to get our heads around the fact that, yes, we have to see patients online and try to work with them was a new concept. And initially it was nerve-wracking for both me and the patient, because the rapport wasn't good. The eye contact is something which, being a psychiatrist, it's very important for me. And I wasn't sure where I was. Even now, I don't think I'm looking at the camera all the time. So this is not me. So it was initially difficult. However, all of us were, in the same boat, and my patients also understood that, it is something which they have to adapt. So slowly they started engaging, and my follow patients, some of them refused to see me for the first 6 months. They'll only let their carers talk to me. They will not come in the camera. So then I switched on to a phone mode for such patients. So they'll only have voice calls. They'll refuse video calls. And sometimes, they'll say, I'm in a lounge where I don't want to come in the camera. So then I started dressing down. Usually to work, we dress up, but then it was a reverse. So I started dressing down, and I'll say, no, I'm in my nightwear, you come. So that started helping to an extent. So each and every day was a learning process, I should say. And even medical people who are not as technically sound as you guys are, I think in this 1 year, we have moved forward, and we have started using technology to an extent, I should say. So yeah, that's where it is right now.
Thank you. I think we all know the last one for this question is Aarti Auntie. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, moving on to online, I think the first 4 months it was quite difficult, and the work processes was never ending because everybody knows what they're supposed to do, but because it's such a new situation, everybody wants validation. So more than working, we were more on calls, we were on WhatsApp, we were having meetings. So that took up most of the time. But I think then we kind of settled into a routine. Everybody was like, they were confident about what they were doing. And then things kind of settled. But like Mick said about work ethics, I think most of us teachers are kind of overdoing it because we're working from home and we're not used to it. So we're always second guessing, are we doing enough? Is this enough? So much time I put in, but is that enough? Am I, but I think there was a session with the student support services that really helped me, which said put like 3 tasks that you would do for the day and make sure you complete that. Because otherwise work is never ending. You can continue forever. So I think tips like that really helped. And work ethics, I think people have become so self-motivated. They are so accountable. So I think work ethics are at all-time best right now, if I should say. So
Yes, Mixer, you'd like to add?
I just want to follow up on something because I also want to address this question of what's the impact of COVID on your ethics in general. And there's something that Dr. Mitali said there that was very important. And it has been very interesting for me. I've really had to learn how to trust people, right? And at first, I don't think I was as trusting as I needed to be to work in this environment. And when you're managing a lot of employees and a lot of students, it's easy to become suspicious and to mistrust and to think that maybe they're not working hard enough, or maybe they're not authentically doing their homework, and maybe we need more cameras on them, etc. Right? But this point that Dr. Mitali made about dressing down was a really interesting point. And one thing that happened to me in the middle of the year is I read an article by Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, and he talked about how at his company they decided that they were going to allow employees to be not camera ready and to allow to turn the camera off. And at that time, we were having a lot of discussions about insisting that the students have to have the cameras on. And I noticed that the teenagers in particularly were very resistant to having the cameras on. And I just started to learn about the importance of trusting people. And the more I trusted them, the more I realized how much work they were doing, both students and teachers. And, lately it's been, people have been getting sick, right? And people have had to take time off of work, and people have had to go get inoculations and vaccinations and everything like that. So we can't possibly follow up on everybody. We just have to trust people. And what I've noticed is that by building a culture of trust, you actually get much more out of the class or out of the organization than you would if you tried to examine every excuse and put more cameras on the students as they're taking their tests.
Thank you for that. So let's move on. Naman, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, okay. So the next question is, what is the perception of having a balance between professional and personal life? Like, to what extent is it attainable prior and post COVID? So, like, for define what's work-life balance for you now.
If I was,
So,
yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah.
Rati, go ahead.
If I was to answer it, I think as a student, sometimes I feel I kind of work too much. I just stay on my laptop a lot. And I don't know if the parents are, if, I mean, as parents, I guess you can see that sometimes kids are just too into their laptops. And because I know that most of the time my parents would come and would say that, you have to get off your laptop and like talk to us, have more family time, spend more time with us. And there have been times when they've gotten really strict with that because they felt that I just stick onto the laptop a lot. So it's been hard. But then after so many days of this lockdown and the pandemic going on, I think I've been able to, like, just schedule. As one of the parents, it's all about planning. So the more I was able to plan and the more I had a better schedule, I was able to even finish my work quickly because I allotted that one family time. And the thing is that my parents are also doctors, so they're like frontline workers. And so I don't get to see them every day, or so they live separately. They don't live with me. And so I have to allot time, like at least once, 3 times a week, so I can go walking with them. We kind of maintain a distance, wear a mask, and have a conversation. So every time I kind of maintain this schedule and keep time for my family, I kind of tend to finish my work quickly too. So in that way, I think that I've been trying to make a work and personal life. I've been trying to bring a balance over there, and it's been working out well recently. So yeah.
Thank you, Rati, for the student perspective. So, since we got a student perspective, maybe Miss Anusha, you would like to provide the parent perspective on this.
Sure, thanks, Naman. So, like any person doing housework will tell you that it never ends. And I think one of the things that I learned was like Aarti said, it's prioritize. Like, don't try to accomplish everything. We just prioritize, and then leave the rest of the time for doing things together as a family. And then this the staying at home gives you a new appreciation for having family together. Like, all we eat all our meals together, which is so important. It's also something that contributes a lot in terms of getting discussions going, talking to your family. Then the lack of a commute, that time that you save, we realize that that's really precious. That when you're not commuting, that 1.5 or 2 hours a day, we said, okay, we should do something special with it. Like, we should do something useful with it and not let it. So that added to the balance. So as a family, we started gardening. We started, some other growing vegetables and some other stuff, which made sure that all the time that we had together was not going in, like in me doing more housework, or my husband spending more time in meetings, or the kids spending more time just doing, sitting on their computers or doing stuff. So it is again, it did not come from day one. It's something that evolved, right? We figured out that we need that balance. We need to step back from the other stuff that we want to do or need to do, and constantly, I would say two things, like prioritize, number one, and then carve out that time. Like in our case, we said, okay, meal times and the time that we were earlier spending commuting, let's figure out something nice to do with that time. So that's how we figured out our balance. But again, it took a while. It took some time to figure out and say, we need to prioritize these things. These things are not important to get to that balance.
Thank you, Ms. Susha. Maybe Arti ma'am, you would like to provide the teacher's perspective on this. What's work-life balance for you now?
Work-life balance for me has always been pretty good, I think. But yeah, like I said, the first 4 months were hard, but I kind of got into some kind of a routine. I know by 5:30, I'm just switching off the laptop. See, today that didn't happen. I'm just switching off and I go out for a walk. So that 1 hour gives me time to kind of, put an end to this school, whatever I'm thinking about, all that is over in that 1 hour because it's like a meditative state. I'm just walking round and round around my apartment. So it's just mind numbing, but it's kind of a meditative process. So I feel the work day is over and then I'm ready for family time. So I think at that time I'm more engaged with them. But yeah, if I tell my son it's family time, he would just run right now because we've had too much of each other. So right now that is a little overrated. I know that we all need a break from each other as a family. My son needs a break from me. I need a break from him. So we're all waiting for that break now.
Thank you, ma'am. So Mr. Mixer, so like since you're the head of the school, so your schedule must be pretty hectic. So, and I think you even talked about it a bit in the previous question of how there's no meaning for it anymore. Would you like to like elaborate more?
I I think, like you said, I've already spoken about it, and I'm a bit different than most people, and I don't really make a distinction between work and life because it's all mixed up for me, because my kids go to KC High, and when I read Shakespeare and talk about mathematics with my daughter, and I talk about work at home, and I talk about my kids at work, and it's all just confusing and mixed up to me. So I don't really make this distinction. Luckily for me, I've always really enjoyed my work. I think choosing to be a teacher was the right choice for me. And since I've always loved being a teacher, I've always loved learning. I've always been kind of deeply involved in whatever I'm learning and whatever I'm teaching and whatever I'm reading. And it's all mixed up between my family, my colleagues, my professional relationships, my personal relationships. About 20 or 30 years ago, I decided to embrace this concept called radical honesty. And I really don't have any secrets at home and I don't have any secrets at work. So it's hard for me to make that distinction, but I realize I'm a bit unusual, and I do respect the need of other people to have that work-life balance and to occasionally turn off work, and I think that is important for a lot of people.
Thank you, sir, for that unique perspective. Rati, you would like to add something?
I mean, I just wanted to add on to what Mixer said. I feel that sometimes it's nice when you have that mix between your personal life and your work life, because there are some situations when, like, for me, basically my work is to study, to learn more, and I love doing it just with my parents too. I like to go ask them doubts, or even my grandfather, just probably talking about an economic concept, talking to him about economics. I think mixing it up also kind of gives you more different perspectives and kind of also gives you that interactive time with your family. So I feel that's kind of very important too in a way.
Thank you, Rati. Miss Mithili, would you like to add share your point of view as a psychologist?
I think, as others are saying, the distinction, the line between work life and family life is kind of blurred now. So there's always, I think, no one can say I've got the distinction, clearly defined. So it is a blur, but I think it's a good blur for people who are at an advantage, or at least at this point in time, who've been lucky enough not to have, too many unfortunate incidences in their lives due to the pandemic. I think that kind of keeps this going. For me, to run the clinic at least has been reasonably okay. But when it comes to running a hospital, because it's a business after all, and we have 200 plus employees at the hospital. So to run a hospital where the staff needs constant encouragement during these difficult times, that's been the most difficult task for me at workplace, because I'm not able to do it online all the time, because staff cannot be on their phones. They have to be with the patients. So usually we go on rounds, see the staff in person, support them on the field. But then I've not been able to do that. So that is one thing which has made me feel guilty for my, for my team. I'm not there in person for them. Most often because my kids are at home. And since last March, I think 4 or 5 months, I didn't go at all for 4 months because there were no domestic helpers at home. So I couldn't leave them, without anyone. But since July or so, I managed to get some, nanny's help and maid's help and helpers. So I did go back for 3 days a week. So that was a good time from June, July till Jan, Feb, I was able to do that. So the staff also were, were able to come to us and come to me and spend that time, because they're so stressed in their, in the world outside. So they needed that time with me. But again, now, come March, April, now I'm not able to go. For the last 10 days, I've not been able to go out because both my helpers got COVID and they're at home. So I couldn't have anyone at home here. So the balance between work, the work life and my family life has not been that great during the pandemic, I should say, as compared to pre-COVID. But we're all trying our best, and my kids have been really good at understanding that, having doctors as parents, they know that we are constantly on the phone. At any point in time, they cannot have a complete, family time with us. But the good thing is my husband has been able to spend more time with the kids, I should say, during this lockdown period. So overall, it's not been too much of a difficulty, but still I would have loved to, I'm just waiting to for the COVID situation to go away and just give us back the good times, I should say.
Thank you, Ms. Mithili. I hope they get a speedy recovery in your family as well. And Mr. Sunny, sir, so would you like to add on something more?
Yeah, sure. Since last March, work became life and life became work. So I'm not sure where the balance is. But we had to adapt ourselves very quickly. And I'm wearing the facilities and operations hat now. So we had to adapt ourselves very quickly. So I'm not sure how to answer the balance question, because it really didn't exist in our lives. We kind of managed it very well. But from a home front, I'm very fortunate to have a very understanding family. So we did have family time, which was only around dinner. But through the day, we were all doing our own stuff. And when the pandemic struck, there was no routine, if you like. So work is not 9 to 5 anymore. Work is anytime you're on the phone or the computer, or driving around somewhere, or you're doing something. So it could start in the morning, it could go on till the night. There were meetings, there were phone calls, and it still continues, mind you. It hasn't withered away. But the nice thing about not having a routine is you could actually take some time out in the day, which you could never do in the school, because if you were walking about and you didn't have much to do, it wasn't a good sign. So here in this case, you could go out to the garden, you could do many things. You could just pick up a book and continue reading. So we didn't have a routine as in a time schedule. So every time there was work, it became our life, and our life became work. Yeah. So it's fun. I enjoy it. I don't enjoy the pandemic. I enjoy the work. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for these unique perspectives to highlight both the pros and cons of this. Like Sunisha, would you want to move on to the next one?
Sure. So our next question is something that's a lot more hopeful. Assuming everyone goes back to the normal, which is when the pandemic finally ends, do you think your work life will remain the same, or would it return to the way it was before the pandemic? What would this particular change we're dealing with lead to in future within your work life?
Can I take that question?
Sure.
Yeah. So we can't see into the future, right? So we never expected the pandemic. So I'm really not too sure where we're headed. But wherever we're headed, I think we all have the resilience now and we have the wherewithal to manage whatever's being thrown at us next. I mean, I don't know if it could be worse than what's going on outside right now. Unless you have the pandemic in your home, you don't actually understand the depth of what's going on in the world outside. So, from someone who's had that experience lately, I would just like to think that we're all armored now and we're all armed with adaptive strategies to move on in life. Yeah.
Yes, Arti.
Yeah, Sunisha, I don't think we'll go back to probably being the same way, but I think we've become more efficient. Our systems have become more efficient. The way we work at home or the way we work at school, everything has become more efficient. So I think we'll get a lot more done, a lot more quicker. And we are looking at the world with a very different perspective now. So we'll definitely move outside textbooks to really exploring the world, given the chance now.
That's interesting. I think we're kind of getting to seeing some light in in the midst of this pandemic. Seems to be there are some positives with what's been happening. So, what do you think as a parent? Okay, yes, Mixa.
Oh, I just want to say one of the positives, Sunisha, has been grade 11 and your class. And just seeing how all of you, including all three of you, have reacted so positively to these difficult and challenging circumstances, and how hard you guys have worked and how much you have learned. And I don't think things will ever go back to normal, whatever that was, because I see how much you guys have developed in the past year. And I want to figure out ways to accommodate that type of learning in the future, even when we get back to school. And of course, when we did get back to school for those 2 months, all those things were important. This times around the picnic tables, the table tennis, the basketball, the soccer, the laughing, the joking around, etc. So we definitely want that to happen. But the way you guys have developed academically and also in terms of your life skills has been really fabulous to watch. So we are going to have to figure out ways to utilize what we have learned this year and to incorporate it into our daily experiences once we get back to school.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, Ms. Anusha.
Yeah, I want to add on to what Mixer said, that we've seen different possibilities now. Maybe it didn't come from a good event; it came from a pandemic. But we've seen very different possibilities, and like Sunny sir said, we've developed resilience. We've learned to innovate and adapt in ways that we thought we would never have to. So I don't think we would go back to the way things were, because in some sense that was also limiting. We were probably operating with a tunnel vision. We weren't looking beyond what was always happening. Like this was the way things were done, so we just continued doing things that way. I think we've had a lot of eye-opening in terms of what is possible. Like, there is a lot more that's possible. There's a lot more learning that can happen, which doesn't have anything to do with maybe going to school or books, or there's a lot of other things that you want to do with your time. You have a better appreciation for health and life and other things. So I don't think we would, a lot of the things that we could go back to, especially like meeting people, having that personal touch, that is something that I'm sure everybody is longing for. But there are other things that I'm sure we'll take away from this pandemic, which will change the way we do a lot of things. At least for me personally, I think it would be that way.
Okay, yes.
I think Anusha and Nick, the points which they were saying, it's absolutely true worldwide. I think West or East, most of the political world, non-political, they've all come to realize how efficiency, working wise, and also economically, things could be improved by working from home, and the huge office spaces, the lavish conferences, the travel costs which everyone was logging in. So all that could come down. I think from the pandemic, post-pandemic, working from home, we've all come to appreciate that. So I'm hoping that we retain some of the good things we have learned during these times, cutting down on fuel, for example, and try to continue the say the teleconsultations or working from mode at least a couple of days in a week or so. So both the students at school and also the public can retain this time, and that is also giving a balance with the family, because all of us have come to enjoy definitely a higher percentage of time with our families, and to go back to not having that will be a shame. So I think we should try and aim to achieve. I don't know the ways, but then I'm sure the best brains in the world are going to come together to retain such concepts for the future. As far as personal life is concerned, we have all come to achieve a better balance. That's a very positive thing from this lockdown. So we've all come to learn either new skills because we had some extra time, as Anusha was saying, cutting down of travel or whatever. So we have all started learning some new things. Even I read, a recent survey where the senior citizens have started learning technology so they can communicate with their families, grandchildren, wherever. So each one, without an age barrier, have started learning skills which they can continue to take it forward. So that is something which has been a positive thing. And I think to manage good work-life balance, we should all understand that there's no 100% balance anytime. So we will not achieve 100% in anything. So as long as we have a lesser target of say 70%, 75%, it can be a personal target. So if we are able to achieve a 70 or 80% of our best at work, our best at family time, our best at personal time, that should do. So as long as we are able to achieve a limited percent, if we ask the question, have I given the best at my workplace today or this month? Have I given the best at my family space? If the answer comes back as no, and if we can sit down and think why it came as a no, and maybe sit down with your family members and find out what do they expect from us, what changes would they like us to make, for this percentage to get better, then work on that. That will be a good target. I think a realistic target, and smart goal to keep in mind, I think. So for the next 6 months or so, 3 to 6 months, I don't know how long it's going to be. But if we have some defined working hours and defined me time and family time, I think it should help us forward.
Interesting. Rati, what do you have to say? Do you have any contrasting opinions, or do you go by the same lines?
I mean, I think going back to the norms, I really am not sure. Probably, I think there would be a difference from how we are now and what we would be after the pandemic. I think we would just be more free. We'll be more in contact with people. At the same time, I really do doubt. I still do doubt if we will be able to find the balance, even though we have all the plans and all those things. And the fact that I have to come as a student, I have to go to school, and for me to go to school takes me an hour, and I've been missing on that for the past year, and I've been really happy for that, only that factor of it, I guess. But then apart from it, I've always felt, even when I'm with my parents, the only thing that they usually talk about is work itself. They talk about the hospital, and then they talk about all the surgeries that they do. But I think I kind of miss that even now, the fact that they're not there around me. And I think it would be a difference. But again, as what Dr. Mitali told, that I don't think that you could find a perfect balance between work and personal life.
Okay,
What
okay,
do
let's
you
move
think,
on.
Sunisha? What about you? I'd love to hear your opinion because I've seen such a change in you in the past year.
To be honest, when it comes to work-life balance, I run a mile away. I'm not the most balanced person out there. But having said that, I think it's really given me the time and space to find myself and actually step out of my comfort zone in terms of doing a lot of different things. I've, got into a lot of teaching opportunities in the recent past. And I guess that's kind of what it's made me become a better person and really understand myself. I was always constantly wondering who I am, why I exist, and, very random thoughts. And I think this entire, pandemic has really led to finding some answers relating to that. And I've got more time to work, so I'm quite happy about that. And it's helped me grow as a person as a whole. So that's how I look at it. And honestly, I can't imagine what it would be like after, when the pandemic ends and when things go back to normal. I don't see myself there as of now, because I think I've got really used to the way things have been going right now. And I haven't really even had the chance to step out of it. Like, even when school was open for about 2-3 months, I didn't really come to school. So I'm not really sure about how it's going to be. That's what I'd say. So let's move on to the next question. Does your work entity contribute to maintaining work-life balance? If yes, how? And if not, why not? And is it possible to do so? Does anyone want to take that? Ratni, do you want to go first?
Can you just repeat the question?
Sure. Does your work entity contribute to maintaining work-life balance? If yes, how? And if not, why not? Is it possible to do so? If you'd like me to break it down, do you think our school, plays a role in terms of helping us maintain the work-life balance that, we'd probably want to achieve, or that's the ideal one? I hope that helps.
Yeah. So basically, when it even comes to school, I think our teachers kind of work towards the fact that that we have time to spend with our family. They kind of sometimes prioritize the work that they give us. They think about if they think if we do have time for to do that particular work or homework. So I mean, that way, I think we've been able to find that work-life balance. And even apart from that, I feel that the fact that if you are able to kind of see, basically, when you have work life balance, it's finding your personal space and your time from your work. And I feel sometimes just talking to your friends, having just collaborating with them, or talking to your family, even just about work, you kind of find your personal life over there, because your work is kind of mixed into your personal life, like how Mixer had mentioned before. And the fact that if you're able to go around that with people, you kind of find that personal life balance too, because that's what you're interested in and you like doing it. And if you're able to talk it out with people and if they have different perspectives, I think you can find that the balance over there. So yeah.
Okay, so I think we're running short on time, so we will have to wrap up. If anyone would like to give in any closing thoughts or would really want to answer the question we just threw in right now, you could do that right now. Anyone? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to give a closing thought, like a take home from me, not just pertaining to this question, because the next few months is going to be even tougher than the last lockdown. So from whatever skills we have learned, we should also try to retain them and achieve a sense of balance how much ever we can. And also look at people who are not able to balance it in our in our family circle or friend circle, and try to reach out to them. So as students, I would just like to appeal to the students out there, of IB1, also the younger grades, to just because the summer break is starting, so 2 months you're not going to have pretty much no contact with your friends, or because the school is closed. However, to still continue to have some form of informal chat sessions with your classmates, with your friends, if that's something which the school can encourage, I think it will help a lot of the younger adults, the teenage population, to not have go through any loneliness and social isolation, because the last 1 year has been good. The school having the school, even if it is just online, it's helped a lot. Of my kids especially, it's been very helpful for them to have that structure. At the same time, having 2 months of no contact with their friends might be, kind of daunting for some kids. So if that's something which you guys can continue to do even during the off school, that will be good. And I think for some people in your family or friends who've lost somebody during this pandemic, it may also help to just reach out to them and just give a phone call, whether they're doing well and how are they doing, just to touch base and see if they need any help. Might be a helpful thing to do right now. Of course, you cannot reach out to everyone, but whomsoever comes to your head, especially the elder population. For example, you may have friends who are here, the parents I'm talking to. If you have friends here whose parents are lonely here and their kids are abroad, they're not able to visit them very often, it may help to give them a phone call just to check how things are, if they're getting their grocery supply, vegetable supplies, is there any online classes if they can join, to just yoga class, meditation class. So there's so much of online resources available now, and many people are not aware of it. So these are small things in which we can help and give back to the society. So in these 2 months, I wish all the students of KC High good luck, and hope is the only thing we should hang on to at this point. And I wish all of you a happy holidays.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to add in their thoughts or anything?
I'd like
Yes,
to, if you don't mind, Sanisha. So we spoke a lot about work and life and balance and adapting and resilience and everything else, whatever you may have. But I think going forward, it's important, and this is not just for the learners and the adults. I think it's for all of mankind. I think we need to listen. We need to listen very carefully. We need to listen whatever's being told out there, so we're all on the right page. We're doing the right things. Most of where we are today is because we have a large population that's just not listening. And I think it's important to listen so that we can work our way into the reimagined future, if you like. So that's a good skill to take home. Thank you, Sanisha.
Thank you. Okay, Rati, Mixer, Miss Anusha, Aarti Auntie, anything you'd like to add on, or we can wrap up?
Yeah, I'd like to add on to what Dr. Mitali said, that the next few months are going to be hard. We are going to be isolated. So I think we should forget about work-life balance and do whatever keeps you positive and keeps you going. So if that's going to be work, get into work full-fledged. If it's going to be your family, get there. So don't worry about this balance. Just do what works for you, whatever makes you positive. And that's been work for me this year. So I think I'm going to continue doing more of that. Thank you, Sunisha.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot to all three of you for organizing this. It's been a very interesting conversation. The only thing I'm going to add to the end to Mitali's suggestion is I have a son going into 11th grade and they've formed these reading circles and he seems to be really enjoying that. So that's one way you can kind of stay connected to your friends and be intellectually active over the next few months. I think it's a great idea to get together with some friends, suggest or choose a book that you want to read together and meet once a week or something to discuss that book. I think that's the kind of learning we want to see more of in the future. So thanks a lot to all of you and really well done, very well organized panel discussion, and it's been fascinating to speak to all of you.
Yes, Ms. Anusha, I think you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for organizing this. I really enjoyed hearing all the other perspectives. I would also second what Aarti said. I think we need to find that the things that keep us upbeat and positive and just keep doing that. That's all.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I'd really like to thank the audience for being so patient and tuning in throughout the event. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all the teachers who helped both me and Naman throughout this process. It was, I know it had been like pretty crazy in terms of communication and in terms of getting this whole thing together. I really thank you for all the support and help you gave both me and Naman. Unfortunately, Naman had some internet issues, so he was disconnected. But I'm sure he was also really happy to be a part of this. So thank you so much. To have a lovely evening ahead.
Thank you, Sunisha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good evening.
Bye.